Sky, they built a glass paradise way too high. Then the bubble pop, the silent sound of foreclosure signs are all over town. I got a bad loan, a promise they believe. Now the dream is over, they're feeling deceived. I watch from the sidelines, patient and cool, playing by a different set of rules. All I wanna do is, I love when do I take the window. All I wanna do is, and I'll cash up hard and watch the funds grow. This is straight up capitalism, chip, chip, boom. Sweeping up the pieces with the concrete boom. Wanna do, wanna do, wanna do. Get a call from my contact, a whisper on the phone. Another empty unit, the speculator is gone. He says a shame with a crocodile tears. He sells me their future for a fraction of last year. The paperwork's easy, a cash only deal. That heartbreak and panic is my next big steal. They get a cardboard box, I get the ocean view. It's nothing personal, it's just what I do. And a casual body, take your condo. And a casual body, and watch the dance floor. This is straight up capitalism, chick, chick, boom. Sweeping up the pieces with the concrete broom. When I do wrong, when I do wrong, when I do. Some myself ask for a quick return. Some I rent out, let the lesson burn. They call it a crisis, I call it a sale. In this concrete jungle, the strongest prevail. No funny business, I am the business. They sold you a lead, now I'm the witness. Seek your condo.
Happy Thursday, Miami. If you're watching this live, that means you're tuning in at 4 o'clock on Thursday, every Thursday for Condo Capitalism. This is a 1-hour podcast that I do. I'm Peter Zalewski. I'm a condo consultant. I'm an expert witness, and I'm the founder of the Miami Condo Investment Club with somebody in the industry that is impacting condo pricing, especially those units that might be running into some trouble on the distress side. Who do I have the pleasure of having this week? Well, not only do I have a general contractor, but I have somebody who worked on many of the towers you're going to recognize, including the Jade Brickell back in the day when they were first building it. And what's he doing now? He's doing restoration work. And you say, restoration work? What the hell do I care about that? You should be caring about that because it's impacting the entire state of Florida's condo market. Why? Because we got something called structural integrity reserve studies, and we have mandatory milestone inspections at year 30. So basically, everybody's maintenance fees are going up. Their special assessments are kicking in. And this is one of the guys who's coming in to actually fix and solve the problem. Who is it? It's Juan Ivanoff. And he has Ivita Construction. And check out his website, evitaconstruction.com. What we're going to do over the course of the next hour, we're going to be talking about his background, what he's built up till this point, what new towers he was been working on, new construction, as well as, most importantly, what's going on with the restoration. That is the critical element in South Florida right now. So let me go ahead and bring on Juan. Juan, how's it going? Happy Thursday.
Hey, happy Thursday. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Juan, there's a lot to talk about. You were one of the guys that everybody wants to talk to right now. Why? Because they're all living in condominiums, or they're thinking about moving into condominiums. They're looking at what the maintenance fees are. They're seeing these special assessments. People are freaking out. I was talking to a property manager, or a guy who owns a property management company. He told me some of the board meetings are almost coming to fisticuffs because the fees are so high, because the contractors, guys like you, they're running up the bill. I don't believe that, but Juan, is that true? Are you guys running up the bill on them, or is that simply the effect of what's going on, supply, demand, and oh, by the way, we have tariffs now?
It's a little bit of both. There's supply and demand, but also normally the assessments are run by engineers. And so normally the condominiums hire engineers to assess the value of the repairs that they need to do, the structural repairs. Based on those values, a bid is, plans are prepared, and then they're submitted for bidding purposes. And then they call different contractors like me. Then we provide prices on those plans. But it really depends on the amount of work are on those plans. We bid based on the plans that are submitted by the engineer,
And it's a pretty competitive industry down here in South Florida, Tri-County, Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County. You got towers going up everywhere. You have all sorts of old towers that need to be restored. And at the same time, we have an immigration policy that's driving out a lot of the would-be workers or laborers who would actually be doing this. So I can see everything kind of coming to the head. And then you throw on the fact that we have tariffs now. April 1st, the average tariff in the United States was about 4%. Since then, average is 17%, according to Morgan Stanley. I'm not asking you to talk about the politics, but I'm talking, they're just a regular condition. So in theory, you got fewer workers and you got added costs for the materials. That plus you have the mandates coming from the state of Florida related to all the legislation that went into effect after the Surfside condo collapse, where nearly 100 people died and $1 billion settlement was paid out to the families of the victims. So we got a lot of stuff hitting all at the same time.
Right. You're right. I've been talking with, actually, for example, people that actually pump concrete. They are losing finishers. They are running out. I mean, they don't have the amount of finishers that they used to have. So finishing concrete means all new construction is affected by finishing concrete, because you need those people, to finish concrete. And not everybody knows how to finish concrete. It's an art on itself. And I know that ice has been hitting many different places like Home Depots. The other day that they were hitting landscape contractors close by. I think it was in Myanmar and all that. And, these are people that are going to work. I understand, I understand the policies. I understand you want to remove criminals, but I think it's going, to the other side. Too much to one side. Everything is being affected because you have fewer. You still have the same amount of work, or even more, but you have fewer workers willing to do the work or capable of doing the work. You can
more importantly capable. When Brickell City Center was going up, that's this massive development that's going on over the course of about 3 blocks. It's since been come online. It was built by a Hong Kong developer called Squire Properties. When they were actually putting it up, I got to meet some of the engineers and some of the people involved with it. I was out drinking one night down in downtown Miami. I'm drinking, I'm talking with them, and they're saying, we got to fly everybody in. There's only so many people who know how to do this. And the projects in South Florida, especially Miami, are so massive and so cutting edge. We simply don't have the talent on the ground. So it really becomes a challenge. And I'm assuming that all translates into higher costs.
Yes. And the thing is, I've been in construction now for 26 years, and I've been also in the oil field industry for 3 years. The reality, so I've been in Texas, in Washington, and here. And the reality is all the labor in construction is mainly Hispanic. And it is what it is. I mean, it's Democrats and Republicans use them. It's not like, it's just one or the other. Everybody depends on the workers, and you don't have other people, actually Native Americans, that want to do the work. And I've seen that in many different companies and many different places, so it's a reality we're facing. They need to be able to find a way to make it easier for people to have some type of paperwork that can legally work. But just to get a visa, a tourist visa in other countries, you need to make an appointment. You need to pay $300 to show up for an appointment. And, for a person that is poor, it's very difficult for that, just to get that. So I think this is eventually they're going to have to take it easy on all these measurements, because eventually it's going to everybody, not just one area.
And for anybody who's watching, and I don't know where this podcast is going to, anybody watching in the state of Florida, there's no state income tax. So really the way the city, the county, the school, even the state, they make their monies off of real estate. And how do they do that? Well, whatever the value is of your condo or of your house or whatever it is, but on the residential side, it's roughly 2% of your value is the property tax. And when that property tax money comes in, A third's going to go to the school board, a third will go to the county, and a third will go to the city in which the property is located. So if you get a slowdown or you get any kind of pullback in pricing, that is going to affect the bottom line coffers of each of these entities, school board, county, city. And that means they can't necessarily do what they used to do. So everybody is sort of in the game here to really push the real estate. And the most critical part is going to be the construction workers. So, one last little tidbit, just talking about it, talking about the makeup. South Florida's got about 6.1 million people. About 42% are foreign born. And what happens, it doesn't matter if you're foreign born or you're domestic, you come here, you fall in love with it. You say, you know what, I've been working hard. I deserve it. Let me buy a house. Let me buy a condo. And that's what keeps our industry going. So the Miami Association of Realtors, they just did a study, came out in July, and they looked at pre-construction buyers. These are the people who put down the money. Once the number of sales are accumulated by the developer, that developer then goes out and hires somebody like Juan to build a tower or to do certain stuff. So what the study found is 49% of our pre-construction sales in Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County, they're coming from overseas. And those coming from overseas, the 49%, 86% are coming from Latin America. So it's like, how are you going to kind of keep this economy humming? How are you going to be able to build the stuff and sell the stuff if, in fact, you have this sort of, let's call it a chilling effect right now in South Florida, especially with this pop-up detention center in the middle of the Everglades called Alligator Alcatraz. So I don't want to ask you to talk about politics, but I want people to understand kind of the climate we're dealing with, especially since condo sales are falling, supply is growing, and pricing is teetering along and likely to head downward. So that's kind of our general weather forecast, if you will.
Right. I agree 100%. This is something that they're going to have to figure out what to do, because eventually this is already hurting a lot of companies, and it's hurting everybody because the labor pool is shrinking and the prices are going up. The prices between 2018 to 2023 went up probably 40% on the labor pool. Yeah. What I used to pay somebody that knew what to do in 2018, going back to 2023, went probably 40%.
And what about since then? How has it ticked up since 2023?
Now from 2023 to now, it's been stabilized, maybe a little bit. It's been going up a little bit, not as much. I think the pandemic helped with inflation, raise those prices, those labor prices. But now it's been a little bit stabilized, but I think it's still going up. Now I would say maybe about 10 to 15%, but it's still going up.
Yeah. And that's what I always say about real estate. Takes 3 times as long as you expect and costs twice as much.
Yeah, you're right.
So Juan, I'm so excited about this podcast. I kind of got ahead of myself. Let's go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about you, about your company. Can you kind of walk us through some of the background? Can you tell us about what it was like building Jade Brickell, being involved with that project? Anybody who doesn't know, there's a developer down here called Edgardo Di Fortuna. He's got a company called Fortune. This was his first project going forward. And Juan, I don't know if you know this or not, but back in the day when they were actually launching it, I'll never forget, it was the first project on Brickell, the Brickell area,
yes,
to break $500 a square foot. And that was a big deal. Now we got condos trying to go off at $1,500, $2,000 a foot, just to sort of show you where we were versus kind of where we are. But anyways, Juan, tell us about yourself. Tell us about some of the projects you worked on. Talk us about your time in D.C. as well as Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
That's another market that's supposedly booming. I want to hear all about it.
So basically, I started in this business in 1999 down in Washington, D.C. We were doing repairs, the same type of repairs that we're doing here, but in smaller buildings that don't have any recreational decks or anything like that. And they was more involved with brick replacements, through-wall flashing, sealants replacements, and things like that. And the jobs were a lot smaller. In 2004, I moved here. I started seeing the magnitude of the jobs. I was basically doing a lot of restoration time, restoration of old buildings, and new buildings. So I moved here. We started doing one one of my first jobs was Portofino in South Beach, repairing some post-tension cables.
Well, you were repairing it, or were you building it new? You were repairing it.
At
Because
that
it
point-
opened
at
like
that point, it was
96
already
or
been
something.
built. In
Yeah,
2004
okay.
was already been built. And we were doing some repairs on that building. And then I worked for different companies. One of them was owned by Continental Group called Aquashield at the time. Aquashield then disappeared. Then Continental was purchased by First Service.
Yes.
And then during that time, we were there for about a year. Eventually, Aquashield got acquired by another company called Structural Preservation Systems. Now it's just Structural. It's a company out of Baltimore. And we were working in different buildings. One of the buildings that I ended up working it was the J, but J was already built.
Okay, it was already online.
They was
Okay.
already online. They were finishing the building and they started inspecting the building, and they noticed that there were between the floors there was some aluminum fascia covering this, and they noticed some pops, some dents on the aluminum. So they hired an engineer firm. They start looking into that, and they noticed that a lot of the post-tension cables have popped or have never been tensioned. So when you have a post-tension building, you depend on these cables that go from one side of the slab to the other side of the slab to be tensioned, because you don't have as much reinforcement. You don't have as much of rebar. You depend on these cables to basically to tension, to give you that compression to the slab. And they noticed that many of those cables have never been tensioned, and some of them have already been popping. So there was a major restoration run by. Can I say the name of the? No.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally up to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
I would love to hear it, but it's up
Yes,
to you.
it was Promax. Promax Restoration was the company that was actually hired to do the repairs, and then I was with a different company at the time, and they hired us to do the post-tension repairs, and we were there for about 3 years. Actually, Promax is still in the J doing some repairs there, and eventually the building got repaired. But imagine you've just bought brand new building, you're living there. After a couple of years, you have swing stages all over your building, trying to repair what you should have been fixed from the beginning, right? It was a brand new building.
Yeah. Now, a quick question. I don't mean to interrupt, but a quick question.
Yes.
Typically what I see down here is when a building hits about 10 years, once it's come online, it's going to hit about 10 years. There always seems to be a lot of renovations that are done. Generally speaking, do you think that's upkeep, or are they simply fixing the stuff that maybe wasn't noticed when it was first getting constructed and the building is now settled and is coming into its place? So do you think that's upkeep normal, or do you think that's probably when you first start to identify maybe some of the issues, some of the flaws in the construction early on?
So one of the things that happens is that when they build these buildings, they don't pay too much attention to the waterproofing, especially waterproofing. It used to be like that. Maybe now they're paying more attention, but it used to be like they didn't pay too much attention on the waterproofing. So what happened with the Champlain Towers, one of the things that made the Champlain Towers collapse was the pool deck itself.
Yes.
And so if you have issues with the waterproofing on the pool deck, that water will penetrate into the concrete, and with it will eventually corrode the rebars, and the rebars will expand and then will pop will make the concrete fail. So what you find is that you finish a building, you finish this brand new deck, beautiful deck, pool, and then 5 years into using the building, you start seeing leaks into the parking garage below.
Yes.
And the problem is that the only way to fix that is to rip out the entire deck, go to the structural deck, remove the old waterproofing, replace a new waterproofing, and rebuild the whole deck. And you're talking about $15 million, renovation, when that building should have lasted at least 20, 25 years without nobody touching the deck.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that you see a lot in new buildings.
And why does that typically happen? Is that an oversight? Is that like a lack of understanding? Like maybe there was some advancement in technology and now they realize it, or is it like an oversight, or maybe they use like the product isn't necessarily the best?
Sometimes
I mean,
sometimes they don't spend the money to use proper products for waterproofing, and eventually the waterproofing they're using will fail in a couple of years, and maybe at that time they don't care so much because they sold the building
and they're gone.